Welcome to the Crypto News. In this video, Gareth Soloway shares his latest prediction on Bitcoin.
All right, let's talk about one of your recent tweets. I'm just going to read it. After coming within $16 of the $48,250 level I gave below, Bitcoin has pulled back beautifully, as predicted, hitting $45,824. Cue the deleting of comments that said I would be wrong from bikers who can't control their emotions. Again, members and I just keep printing dollars. Are you the Federal Reserve now? You keep printing dollars?
I wish I could do it as easily as the Federal Reserve. I mean, that's for sure. But yeah, I mean, bottom line is this was a pure chart play. And my point of saying stuff like that is I really want people to start to understand that emotion gets you in trouble. Like, yes, I believe in Bitcoin long term, but it doesn't mean it's going to go up every single day from here until eternity. You're going to have pullbacks. You're going to have levels that hit. And that's exactly what we have. If we look at the Bitcoin chart here, it was a beautiful move up into this perfect parallel channel trend line. And the 200 moving average was right there. The Bitcoin was up 7 straight days into that too. So, I mean, it was kind of begging to be a pullback. And so all we did was we sold our long on Bitcoin, and then we just ended up shorting it there and now in the money. So again, I think there's still a little bit more downside here. First big level to test is going to be right here, just below 45,000. We're getting pretty close. And then that will be the first big test, whether or not Bitcoin can turn around and try to break out, or if it's going to fail and start heading back to the lower side of the channel.
That channel seems to be moving upwards, though. So maybe that's a long-term play to stay bullish. What's your take?
Yeah, so the weird thing about it is, and this is kind of counterintuitive, but channels that are upsloping like this, generally the probabilities are that they break to the downside. And what's interesting about this, if you go back to last year, let's go back to last May and June, you actually had another kind of channel, but this one was downsloping. So if we look at this here and we draw a parallel line, you could see how you were in this parallel. Downsloping parallel channels tend to break up, while upsloping tend to break down. So again, all I do is technical probabilities, right? The charts basically tell us what's the most likely outcome. And whether or not we chop around here for a while, the ultimate outcome for probabilities is eventually to see more downside.
Okay. Eventually to see more downside. The thing about emotions, you're right. The emotions wreck your trading. They wreck a lot of things in life, but let's just focus on trading for now.
That's true.
The issue is people stick to a thesis, and sometimes when that thesis doesn't play out, I guess egos get in the way or something. We don't admit that we're wrong, and we don't admit that we have to update our thesis, and then we just keep buying into that wrong trade. Either we average down when we shouldn't, or we don't get out when we should.
I was just going to say you're 100% right. And listen, even myself, I mean, I've done this for 20 years and I still struggle with ego. No one likes to be wrong. But again, I think it's important for us, you might be the most bullish on Bitcoin ever. It doesn't mean it's going to go straight up nonstop, right? You have to understand price action. You have to understand that when too many people get bullish and that emotion takes over, that's usually a bearish sign, and vice versa on the bearish, when overly bearish side, it's usually bullish. So I think people need to kind of just understand that, you can have your long-term thesis like I do that says Bitcoin eventually goes to $500,000, but it doesn't mean it's not going to go to 20,000 before that. And I think that's important to understand, is that you have to flush out a lot of the weak hands before it can really regroup, bring back the .com era. And I've talked about that a lot, how in the .coms, Amazon survived and has thrived. It went to $6 a share in 2000 when the .com bubble collapsed. And then now it's at 3,300. So you can have washouts, and the best and the brightest will survive.
Before we talk about your price action forecast, let's talk about your methodology for trading. How do you determine momentum right now?
So momentum is a great thing, right? It's a great thing to understand as long as you catch it early. Now, when you're late to the party, like last October and November, when you were 65,000, 68,000, you can't chase that momentum. You need, as an investor, to step back and say, okay, Bitcoin has run up way too far, way too fast, and I'm not going to be that person that buys right up at the highs. Now, if you start to recognize the momentum shift, and that's the key, is can you catch it as it's just turning? And that's where the momentum is. That's where the big money is made. It's very, very hard to do. The only way I've ever found out how to do that is by following the charts and noticing that you're buying at support. All right. Buying at support, generally you put the odds in your favor of that move.
Okay. So what are we at right now? We're at $45,000 just about. Is that a critical support level for you? Or, well, you said you might expect more downside. So what is the critical support level for you?
Yeah, so the first big test is going to be right here at around 45,000. Right now we're at 45.6. I'm tempted to take a little bit of my short off the table right around there just to protect myself in case we start moving back up. That would be the smart decision. If we do break 45, then you start heading back to a lower level here that I'm watching very, very closely. And this would be your next one connecting these lows. It's around 40,000. And then really the one that investors should be most concerned about would be this trend line here at the very lows. If that breaks, that's where you start getting into the 20,000-ish range, and you could see some major downside. Now, on the other side of the coin, let's talk to both sides, right? Because I think it's important to understand that investors, you don't want to just be focused on one side. And I think that's a major problem with crypto, is that everyone's just focused on the bull case. So in my case, I'm more on the bear side, but it doesn't mean I don't look at the bull case. And for me, the bull case is simply that if we were to start trading above this 200 moving average in this channel, and we were to hold there for a matter of days, one day doesn't matter. We've seen that plenty of times reverse. But if you establish yourself above this level here, then you can start saying, okay, maybe Bitcoin can start to really get some momentum and break to the upside, because the channel would be broken and the 200 moving average would be broken.
It seems to me like every time I talk to you, your band gets narrower and narrower. Like your resistance level now is $600 from our current level. Whereas before it's, we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars of differentiation here. Is that, so what's going on? Do you think that the range, the trading range of Bitcoin is just becoming more narrow these days?
Well, more than anything, it's just the differential between short and midterm trading, right? So, ultimately it's a matter of, this is going to be the first support here. I'm thinking it will break, but nothing's guaranteed. So when I'm dealing with my own capital, I'm not going to be a cowboy and just say, hey, I'm going to roll the dice and I hope this goes to 20,000. I'm going to kind of protect some of those gains by maybe covering a little bit of that short at the 45,000 level. But let's not kid ourselves. Ultimately, Bitcoin remains inside of this range, and it's just trading up and down basically. And as long as it's in this range, it's range bound, and you would eventually expect it to come back here, maybe go back up. Eventually one of these directions will break, and that will be the big move in that direction. So it could be up here, it could be down here. Whichever way it breaks, investors should watch that, because that likely is the next big move on Bitcoin in that direction.
Big move either way, you're saying?
Yeah. So if we start really establishing ourselves, and I'm not just talking about a day above this level here, but if we are up there for like 3 or 4 days and we're holding above it, starting to build consolidation above the 200 in this channel trend line, then you could actually see, this is a situation where you'll have resistance along the way, but it opens the door to significant upside. Same thing on the downside, right? So if we break to the downside here, there is a couple stops along the way. One would be right at this low down here, just below 30,000. But I honestly would think that if we break this area, we're probably headed to that 20,000 level, which was the 2017 high.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3,000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where to start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof, to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.